Today I'd like to talk to you about the grasses. The grasses were one of the first plants that were domesticated. We find different types of grasses on every single continent. But the big question we have to ask is, why did so many groups of people that were separate from one another independently start selecting grasses to domesticate? And when we talk about domestication, really what we're talking about is that first set of genetic modification. People selecting very specific traits and then making sure that after generation after generation after generation, the organisms that they were growing all had those traits that they were interested in. So why grasses? Well, grasses have that gene for a non-shattering head. And what we mean by non-shattering head is that the part of the plant that holds on to all of the grain or the fruit, the nummy stuff that everybody wants to eat, that stays put. It stays on the stem-like structure. This would make harvesting a lot easier. So because all of the grasses had that gene, it makes sense why people would select for them. Another reason is that the grain or the fruit had a lot of protein. So there was a lot of nutrients, a lot of that necessary calories that people would need in order to survive. So when we look at that origin of agriculture, we see that grasses were often the fundamental part of agricultural practices. They still are today, and grasses are, they're just a really amazing plant as far as botany is concerned. So when we look at the structure of a grass plant, almost all grasses are the same, which is really kind of weird considering a lot of grasses have very different genetics, they live on different continents, and yet they have a lot of the same characteristics. One of the big characteristics that we'll have in grasses is that blade of the leaf. Now the blade of the leaf has lots of surface area for doing photosynthesis, but if you notice, all of these leaf blades are super thin. This means that our grasses can survive in a place where there's very little water. The low surface area, the thin leaf blade means that our plants are not losing a lot of water through evaporation to the environment. Right in front of me, we have the beginnings of the culm. The culm is going to be the stem-like structure that connects the roots to the blade of the leaf. And when I start to peel the blade of the leaf away, what we start to see is a sheath reveal itself. That sheath is wrapping around the stem and will hold the blade of the leaf on the rest of the culm. On the culm, we are going to have nodes. The nodes are kind of thicker sections. In this stalk, in this culm, we can see our nodes have that kind of purplish color. This is where our leaf is connecting into the culm. We're going to have totipotent cells. The totipotent cells are essentially stem cells. They don't have an identity yet. They can become any part of the plant. So when you cut off the culm, these intercalary meristems will just start to grow again. Now, in addition to the leaf, the sheath, and the culm being a similar characteristic in all grass plants, when our grass is getting ready to flower, our grass will produce a spikelet. And this spikelet will have the flowers and the eventual developing fruit. The fruit is called the grain. So all of our grass plants will have spikelets. They'll have a culm, they'll have the leaf blade, the sheath connecting the leaf blade to the culm, and then all of our grass plants will have fibrous roots. Now fibrous roots look like messy hair where all the roots are connecting back to that one main point on the stem or culm. Underneath the ground, our grass plant can start to send out rhizomes. Rhizomes are going to be horizontal stems that can give rise to new grass plants. That new grass plant will essentially be the original plant. So what our grass plants can do is if this part of the plant gets chewed on, beaten up, beat down, and dies, because of those rhizomes putting up new plants, this plant can continue to survive. The new plants will have the exact same genetics as the original plant. The other thing that a grass plant can do is it can put out stolons. Stolons will be above the ground. They too will be stem-like. They will give rise to a new plant, and that new plant will be genetically identical to the original plant. These are all strategies to help the plant survive getting eaten by other organisms, because grasses are continuously eaten by herbivores. Some of those herbivores would be things like bison or cows or goats or deer or just about anything that can digest the really tough cell walls. Now, at the end of the grass lecture, one of the things that I talk about is I talk about how we're taking all of these shoots above ground, the leaf, the culm, and the sheath. We're taking all of these parts and we're turning it into ethanol, a biofuel. We put this biomass, put these shoots into a vat with enzymes and bacteria. Those enzymes and bacteria make the sugars available and start to convert those sugars into alcohols like ethanol that we can then use to replace gasoline in our engines. So not only do we get food from grasses, but now increasingly we can also get fuel as well. Take a look through those lecture slides, make sure you know all the different grasses, what each type of grass has that makes it different from the others, and what each type of grass has in common with all the rest of the grass plants. As always, make sure to email me if you get any questions or stop by the Zoom office hours.